y'all haven't heard a word I've been saying this whole time. I am so sorry. I didn't even realize my phone was on mute. I was just like, I was talking. I was cooking, y'all. I'm just saying. I really, really was. So, what we are looking at is the Iran bombing splits MAGA faithful and the Republican Party. And since Friday, the Israeli bombing of Iran has dominated public discourse, and some of President Donald Trump's longest standing loyalists have split with legacy media and Republican politicians on what the level of U.S. involvement should be. As often the case with conflicts or wars, positions on the matter don't necessarily break down into neat ideological boxes that correlate with the left right spectrum. So, something related to Beyond Left versus Right 14 Types of Ideological Bias, when Hamas launched terror attacks on southern Israel in October 2023, stances fell along more partisan lines. The American left was more sympathetic to this Palestinian cause and skeptical to the U.S. alliance with Israel, while the right generally supported the alliance in Israel's response. However, as the war has gone on, the American right has begun to sour on Israel, as well as with half of Republicans under age 50 now saying they have an unfavorable view of the country. The shift is ostensibly rooted in the popularity of Trump's America First platform, which saw Trump often railing against neoconservatism and funding of foreign wars during the 2024 campaign. Because I think a lot of people remember him saying, I'll have these conflicts stopped in a couple of weeks. I'll have these conflicts resolved, with just some negotiations. And I still believe that reigns true for President Donald Trump. I'm not saying that it isn't true that he doesn't have the ability to do that. But on the other hand, I think there's more going on than just Donald Trump when it comes to these conflicts, because the one thing that we have to remember about these said conflicts is that, I hate to say it, when all else fails, go to war. And war is become more of a profit center, right? And less of something that people want to be involved in. Um, we may, after the break or sometime during the program, let's look at the stock market and let's see the stocks for maybe Halliburton or Boeing, right? Which are companies that participate in making vehicles and different products during the war, and they make substantial profits during war. Now, if we were at any level of peace, these said companies wouldn't be making money like that, right? Because there would be no need for their products during a time of war. But this is something that we did last week's show, last Tuesday, we talked about the Bilderberg Group and how, the section that I was focusing on, the two sections were the U.S. economy, because that's something that they discussed, along with depopulation and migration, right? We've seen an increase in our country of illegal immigration, not necessarily legal immigration, right? But to that, depopulation. And how do you depopulate a planet quickly? War. Because if people are unfortunately injured during an airstrike, or they're injured during a bombing, or if something happens, you can unfortunately unalive people at a mass scale. So I don't really see these conflicts as organic. I think they are more calculated. And unfortunately, I think there are more hands in the pot stirring the pot than Donald Trump. at this point in juncture because he does want peace. He does want resolve. And he doesn't want to have to be heavy handed about it, right? So I'll continue to read on. It says, though Trump has always supported Israel, his populist campaign messaging seems to have awoken much of the populist MAGA right to take on more traditionally left wing viewpoints, breaking with the traditional neoconservative Republican right. While Trump has reportedly said his administration knew everything about the strikes against Iran beforehand, it's not fully clear yet what level of involvement the U.S. had, aside from Israel's arsenal relying heavily on U.S. weaponry. Nonetheless, immediately after the first round of bombing, Trump boasted about the success of Truth Social, writing, I told, in brackets, Iran, it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told that the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and that Israel has a lot of it with much more to come, and they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know what was about to happen. They are all dead now, and it will only get worse. So, like you see here, Trump is being very heavy handed in the situation, right? And the sad part is, I know he didn't want to be. I know he didn't want to be heavy handed in the situation like this because he's been wanting to avoid war at all costs. But like I just said before, when all else fails, people want to go to war to make money. This is about money and depopulation. And again, the US economy, right? And depopulation and migration. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing happening right now. Like, so if this is you guys' first time to Unfiltered Vision News, welcome, you know, to my news program. And what I like to do is definitely look at the news that's going on. But what I'm also going to do is give a little bit of commentary and maybe a little bit of a different perspective on what's actually happening. You know, it kind of like, I should say, how they say, read between the lines a little bit more. So I wanted to just look at that because, you know, there is a split in the Republican Party, and there are people that are a little bit more conservative. I've got an opportunity to hang around the Republicans here in Georgia, and it's very unfortunate that their party does see things differently. And I think it's that way in the Democratic Party too. You just, well, I haven't been to any of their events or meetings, but I'm pretty sure it's there's a divide there too, right? I think most parties get there because obviously people have different viewpoints when they are in the party. But the sad part is it's because a lot of those parties, the major ones, Republican and Democrat, they're based in ideology. They're not based on tenets. And like I said, that's where Redemption Party is definitely different. Good morning, Unc. Thank you so much for reposting the stream. And so, now let's look here. It's a satellite imagery of Iranian nuclear sites after U.S. strikes prompts split narratives. So President Donald Trump claimed the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities totally obliterated the locations hit. But newly released satellite images have drawn pushback from experts and media outlets. So from the center, Reuters, Richardson Bias noted the satellite imagery showed the bombing severely damaged and possibly destroyed Iran's Fordo site, but that as of Sunday, experts says there was no confirmation. So former UN nuclear inspector David Albright, who also spoke to CNN, that leans left, said he expects Fordo is probably toast. Decker Eveleth, a satellite imagery specialist, was more skeptical and said the facilities are too deeply buried for us to evaluate the level of damage based on satellite imagery. Reuters also reported that a senior Iranian source said Iran moved most of its highly enriched uranium to an undisclosed location before the U.S. attack. Okay. All right, that's what they're reporting. You know, eh, at the end of the day, and I'm going to finish reading this article, but I just have to interject. At the end of the day, I really don't like these conflicts. I definitely, wish we did not have the involvement we have. I know you could kind of see how we got here in the slippery slope of like I said, getting goat roped into it by Netanyahu, saying, well, the U.S. is going to be side by side with us. I was like, bro, who had that conversation? you know, unless you're having these conversations backdoor. And that's why you've probably seen a little bit of the conflict between he and President Donald Trump. And now we're here with Iran. It's like, it's crazy. So Al Jazeera, that leans left, profiled the U.S. attack in detail, offering exact strike times, units deployed, and analysis of the imagery. Al Jazeera wrote that the imagery of Fordo showed 2 craters and a destroyed air defense system. Conversely, CNN said its own analysis found at least 6 large craters at the site. Al Jazeera also noted a claim from Mehdi Mohammadi, an advisor to the chairman of the Iranian parliament, who said none of the damage the U.S. did is irreversible. So from the right, Fox News, that leans right, offered brief coverage under the headline Satellite Image Shows Fordo Nuclear Facility After Massive Bomb Strike, not mentioning the extent of the damage. Fox prominently highlighted a quote from Joint Chiefs Chairman Air Force General Dan Kane, who said all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction, but that time is needed to determine the full extent of damage. Trump responds on Sunday night. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran, as shown by satellite images. Obliteration is an accurate term. So I find it fascinating that Fox kind of pulled back, right? They didn't go full throttle. Whereas Al Jazeera, they were like, we've shown this, we've shown that. And I think just looking at the different angles of what's happening, on the left, I think they're using this to incite more emotion behind what's going on. And, at the end of the day, I'm really praying that there weren't individuals that were harmed behind it. And I'm sure there were. I'm praying there weren't civilians, because these were definitely in the mountains. But this is a power struggle going on. And another thing I wanted to look at, because I've definitely been hearing a lot about pastors talking about Ezekiel 38. And this is something that our pastor even mentioned he wanted to talk about. And I remember the war against Gog and Magog, reading through my Bible. I'm not going to read too much of it, but I definitely want to encourage everybody out here to, read Ezekiel 38 and, see, where we're standing right now. So it says Gog and allies attack Israel. Now, this is the New King James Version, so this doesn't have the these and the thous, and it has more plain English language. So now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Mekesh, and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say thus, says the Lord God, behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Mehesh, and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, and lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen, all splendidly clothed, a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya are with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all its troops, the house of Tagarma from the far north and all its troops, many people are with you. Yeah. So I think, don't quote me on this, but I think Gog in this I should say overall, Gog is like everybody else, right? Right. And when I say everybody else, I'm just talking about other nations, right? And so the Lord's saying, behold, I'm against you, right? Because you're attacking Israel. And I think, I'm going to definitely read through it, come back with some more notes, but I encourage you guys to read Ezekiel 38 because it may give us more insight into what is happening right now biblically. Because here's the thing. If you are a disciple out there, if you're a Christian, I am a disciple who were later called Christians at Antioch. Right? It is biblical. If you are a disciple, again, we know that we always need to be ready. There is no, oh, I'm just going to get ready next week or on Sunday or next month. It's like, no, you're always ready spiritually. Now, does that mean you live your life in fear? Absolutely not. Does not. It means that you take up your cross daily and you follow God because that's what you chose to do. That's what you've chosen to do. You pick up your cross daily and you fight to be ready, heart, mind, and soul. So there's not a Christian right now on the planet that should be in any kind of fear of any of these things going on. There's another headline, Pakistan nominates Trump for a Nobel Prize, but they condemn the U.S. strikes on Iran. Right? Nobody wants to see this conflict. Nobody wants to be in this conflict. Got another headline here. U.S. conducts airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Yeah, because war is big, big business, you guys. Huge. War is big business. And there are those that are trying to take advantage of that. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. And, when we come back on the other side, there's some news that I wanted to get into and cover because it's got a little bit of a time limit on it. And then after that, I want to talk about some, government contracting. I was able to get into my seller dashboard so I can really go over with you guys and show you, maybe some of these contracts that you would like to participate in. I don't want today's recap to be all doom and gloom. Like I said, I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, but we really need to stay focused. So with that, we will take a quick break and I'll see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here again on Unfiltered Vision News. I'm not having horrible technical difficulty, but of course my background doesn't want to show up. It's just, there's a lot going on. But I just found out about this. I know you guys are like, well, that's today. Well, hopefully you got till midnight to find out about this. So it says ACT-PASS Americans can get $5,300 from a $3.6 million data breach settlement. All you need to do is fill out the form before June 23rd. So I'm hoping that the deadline wasn't yesterday, because that would stink. Be like, really? I would still check it out, you guys. So it says a $3.6 million payout is being made by the Retian Group of Washington to resolve claims it failed to prevent a data breach. The leak that happened in 2023 compromised the personal data of thousands of Americans across the country. In agreeing to settle the class action lawsuit, the Retina Group has not admitted to any wrongdoing. The Eye Care Center has locations in Maryland and Virginia and was hit by a data breach March 26. Those leading the lawsuit claimed the number could have prevented the breach with adequate cybersecurity measures. Data including social security numbers, driver's license numbers, and health insurance information was included in the link, putting individuals at risk. So this is definitely focused on this area, Maryland and Virginia. So if you live in that area, the settlement agreement outlines two different payment methods of those impacted by the breach. First, class members who documented losses as a result are able to get up to $5,300, which isn't bad, right? Up to $300 can be claimed by those who suffered usual out-of-pocket losses such as bank fees, communication charges, and payment for credit monitoring, etc. So part of that payment also includes loss of time, which will be compensated at a rate of $25 an hour for a maximum of 4 hours. So you can get at least $100 out of it. For an additional $5,000 can be claimed by class members who suffered serious financial loss to the breach, such as through identity theft or fraud. So documents will need to be provided to show proof of loss, such as bank statements and receipts. These class members will also be eligible for 2 years of free 3-bureau credit monitoring and identity theft protection services. This includes $1 million in identity theft insurance. You know what? With all the data breaches they've been having, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think everybody should just be able to get all of these credit bureau monitoring services for free. And, some of these monitoring services, they don't report everything. They don't. And you have to constantly stay on top of them and wear them out, and you have to pay to do it. I'm like, wait a minute. When did credit monitoring become a profit center? And why are these breaches all so random but very convenient? To me, I'm like, okay, are y'all doing this on purpose so that we get freaked out and we have to pay you to protect our information? I think we should start, I think these credit bureaus need to be sued because they are really horrible at maintaining our data. I'm not talking about the breaches of data. I'm talking about maintaining our data. They are really horrible about um, making sure that your data is current and up to date. And I don't know if anybody out there who's gone through it. I haven't gone through identity theft, but I have had, those situations where people try to, make charges to my credit card and I got to go through, getting my credit card number redone, or, people trying to, infiltrate my bank account, just stuff like that. But what I'm also talking about is with these credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, none of them talk to one another, but the information that they have between all three of them, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, can be so randomly different. I'm like, why do you have something on my report that's been off of my other credit report for like a few years? Like, why isn't it consistent? Right. And I don't know. I think there should be a way we should get some compensation from these crazy credit bureau sites, and we shouldn't have to pay them to protect our data. They should just have to do it for free and figure out how to make the money, or, just do something, or let us protect it. I don't know. We need to come up with something because I'm tired of paying for people to protect my data and it's still breached. That's all. That's all I'm saying. It's annoying. It really, really is. It really, really is. Now, I know last week we definitely covered the riots, the civil unrest going on around the country, especially in LA. And apparently, an appeals court allows Trump's National Guard deployment in LA. Now, that was as of the 21st. So that would have been Saturday. It's now Monday. So it says the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled Thursday. So that would have been what, the 19th? That President Donald Trump can maintain. Oh, it would have been the 18th. Yeah, because it's 20, right? Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just going over the different dates. I'm like, oh, okay. So Thursday. All right. That President Donald Trump can maintain temporary control over the California National Guard in response to anti-immigration and customs enforcement protests. While unanimous ruling validated Trump's deployment order of the California National Guard to Los Angeles, it did not support his administration's argument that the move should be exempt from judicial review. And see, that's where I'm like, no, this is the problem. Judges, stop getting in the way of the president doing his job. He's doing his job to protect people. So here's my thing, judges. Here's my thing, governors. Guess what? If somebody gets injured because you impede the president from doing his job, people should be able to go after you civilly. Because, see, not everybody out there was protected. There are still people that live in the downtown Los Angeles area. Like, they live in the high rises that are down there that were affected by all this nonsense. They weren't a part of this civil unrest, but they definitely have, are succumbed to it. The people that live down there who wanted to be protected. And Gavin Newsom, you were fighting to have the National Guard removed. So what happens to all of these people who were innocent, who got their property damaged, their cars, the outsides of their apartment complexes? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on now. Really? Really? So Gavin Newsom filed a lawsuit last week in an unsuccessful attempt to block the initial deployments, the first federal National Guard deployments without gubernatorial approval since 1965. Opponents widely argued that Trump violated the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, given that the National Guard isn't federally based. Two of the three appeals panel judges, Mark Bennett and Eric Miller, were appointed by Trump during his first presidency. So this is how the media covered it. The New York Post, that leans right biased, stated that Newsom whined about Trump's actions. It also emphasized sections of the court's statement that framed the deployments more favorably, such as before the deployment of the National Guard, protesters pinned down several federal officers. Okay, let me say that again. Before the deployment of the National Guard, protesters pinned down several federal officers and threw concrete chunks, bottles of liquid, and other objects at officers. So those aren't protesters. Okay. That's when they lose that covering. When you are attacking federal officers and you are throwing things at them and trying to harm them, you are a criminal at that point. You are no longer a protester. There's no protection behind it. And see, that's the thing that drives me nuts, because they keep calling these people that are violent protesters. They are not. Okay. These people are I wouldn't call them vigilantes either. I mean, they're just vandals and criminals that are causing more upheaval and unrest. So it's so very sad. So Time magazine, that leans left, highlighted a section of the statement that says nothing in our decision addresses the nature of the activities in which the federalized National Guard may engage, emphasizing where the court did not rule in Trump's favor, right? Nothing in our decision addresses the nature of the activities in which the federalized National Guard may engage. Interesting. So the Hill, which is center, led its article with Trump's response to the ruling, but included statements of opposition from both Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. And unfortunately, I'm looking at California. It's like a failed state, you guys. I mean, it's truly, truly failed. You failed your citizens in the city of Los Angeles, because she's just the city of Los Angeles. She isn't Los Angeles. It's a county, kind of like New York, right? Like New York, there's the county of New York, and then there's the city of New York, and then there's the state of New York. Where in California, you've got Los Angeles City, and then you have Greater Los Angeles, but it's also Los Angeles County, and then you have the state of California. And it's one of the largest counties in the state, and it does have the largest amount of people that are here illegally. I'm not going to call them undocumented. They are here illegally. They broke the law. And a lot of people keep saying, well, it's not a crime. It is a crime. If you are charged civilly a fine, that is a crime. You are having to pay restitution for a crime you committed. Otherwise, there wouldn't be anything that you would have to do. You could just come over here. And that's not the case. You can't just walk over somebody's border and then demand to be taken care of. That's not how this works. But for a few years, it was allowed to be done. Again, the conversation that they had at the Bilderberg group was depopulation and migration. Those are two things that we have to continue to keep in mind when we're looking at what's happening today. Because, see, they want the United States destabilized. They really do. They don't want us functioning in freedom, even though people have fought to get over here to be free. Now, this is an interesting story that I wanted to also read to you guys. So, their judge orders release of Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil from ICE detention. So, I don't know if everybody remembers this guy, he was a student at Columbia University, and was making a lot of noise. And some people were like, well, deport him. And other people were like, well, he's got freedom of speech. And I'm like, you're visiting. You do not have any rights as a U.S. citizen. That's where I'm at. If you are over here on a vacation visa, green card, I don't care. If you are not naturalized, you're visiting. Period. Because your citizenship, because you don't have citizenship, right? So you're not covered under the Constitution. So you can't come over here acting crazy. You know what I'm saying? And be like, oh, yeah, I'm not even from here. It's like, okay, then you need to go home. Like, we need to have rules. We need to definitely emphasize better. Now, a lot of people, their argument was, well, if you shut down this person's freedom of speech, you have to shut down all. He's not a citizen of this country. Okay. That's all I'm saying. So, Mahmoud Khalil is a Palestinian activist. He has been released from an ICE detention center after being detained for more than 3 months. A U.S. District Judge, Michael Farbiars, oh my goodness, sorry if I butchered that last name, ordered Khalil's release after concluding that he was not a flight risk or a danger to the public. You sure about that? So Khalil graduated from Columbia University while he was in ICE while he was in an ICE detention center in Louisiana. He has been a vocal critic of Israel's policies towards Palestine. However, George Fabriares ruled that Khalil's detention on this basis was probably unconstitutional. White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson accused Khalil of engaging in fraud and misrepresentation and conducted detrimental to and conduct detrimental to American foreign policy interests. So, for context, he was one of the first individuals arrested in what has been described as an immigration crackdown on student activism. His arrest sparked significant controversy and protests in New York and Washington, D.C. Advocates have argued that the Trump administration's actions against Khalil represent a retaliation against his political activism. And this is how the media covered it. So CNN, that's left biased, focused on its report on Khalil's separation from his wife and newborn son during detention, portraying him as a victim of unjust punishment. Conversely, Fox News, which seems right, described Khalil as an anti Israel activist, highlighting the political aspects of the case. The BBC News, which is center, provided a more balanced approach covering both the government's arguments against Khalil and his own defense. And see, this person, he wasn't just protesting, he was an activist. It was crazy. I think, I don't know, because I know that there was two different things that happened in Colombia. I don't think he was a part of locking down like the facilities at Columbia. I don't think he was a part of that. But what he was doing, like, he was really on one. You know, he was making threats and stuff. And I'm like, how is this person hiding behind our Constitution when he's not even a citizen here? You're a student. And that's the problem. A lot of these people, they come to the soil, right? They go to school here and they're like, oh, I have all the rights a citizen has. No, you don't. And I think schools need to start making that real, real clear. Hey, good morning, sassy lady. Thank you so much. Blessings and happy Monday to you as well. Look, y'all can't come over here causing trouble and acting crazy, get arrested, and be like, well, we have every right. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're not a citizen here. I don't know what big bold letters that needs to be. If you're a student, if you have a vacation visa, if you have a green card, again, if you are not a naturalized citizen, you are not covered by the United States. Period. You do not fall under the Constitution. That's all I'm saying. So you don't get to exercise the rights of a citizen just because you are here on the soil. That to me, that's the problem. That's the problem. A lot of people have gotten way, way too comfortable, in my opinion, and just acting like it's okay, right? They're just acting like I can do whatever I want to do. No, you can't. Are you crazy? Are you insane? Are I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy because it doesn't apply to you like that. It really, really does not apply to you that way. And people want to make it seem like just because I'm here, I get to act like a US citizen. No, you don't. You don't get the rights, you don't get the benefits, but we can give you a one-way ticket up out of here. That's what I'm talking about. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm still having a few technical difficulties with my camera and all that other nonsense. So I will figure it out and get it together. But when we come back on the other side, I want to talk about government contracting. I want to talk a little bit about that and just show you guys one of the um, resources that I found that I've used to look at contracts. I've applied for some. I haven't won them, and I'm okay with that. I'm busy enough. A lot of people think, oh, let's get a government contract. It'd be easy. No, they're good, but you got to be diligent about fulfilling those contracts. Oh, thanks, Unc. He says this the danger of giving immigrants the American tag. They should be called by their country name without adding America. Absolutely. And told they are guests on American soil. Absolutely. I totally agree. Because they come over here and they're acting like, well, I'm here in the US. I'm like, so you're still governed by the jurisdiction of the country you hold loyalty to. So, somebody else was bringing up, what about these flags that are being flown? Should people definitely, be removed for our country for that? Like, how are you flying a foreign flag on American soil? Because I think even Ben Berquam, he did a video over the weekend and he showed where they were having a Palestinian march. Maybe it was a small parade in Chicago. Yeah, y'all, Chicago doing a Palestinian. Why? Why are we on this soil supporting anything in the Middle East? Okay. The only people that should be dealing with the Middle East on this soil are people in Congress. That's it. Like, why are we having protests about Israel or Palestine or any other Middle Eastern country? We are here in America. Okay. We got enough problems of our own. Now, if you want to go out and protest and help those people, how about you protest over there? Yeah. How about you protest in Iran? Huh? How about you protest in Israel? Because they would lock you up. That's why. They would lock you up or, kill you. There's always that option because they don't let people do stuff like over here. Maybe that's why you coming over here because you can, be mad and belligerent and yell at the police and spit on them and act crazy. But there's not too many consequences for that, right? It says when they fly their flags, it lets Americans know they are loyal to their homeland and not to America. Absolutely. Absolutely. It lets people know where their loyalties lie. Because I was actually talking to somebody over the weekend at the Save America tour, and some of those people flying those Mexican flags, they're not Mexican. I need people to understand that they may be from other countries trying to impose the Mexican flag, like, yeah, we're here to take over. Yeah, now there are some Latinos, I would say, in La Raza, in different groups in that respect, that might be Mexican, right? They know better than the flattened flags. They know better. And they would never do it because they don't want to be at war with the United States, right? They do have a takeover spirit, and there are certain parts that they do want to take over. Not saying that they don't, they do. And in certain areas, they've been allowed to, right? Because, there was a time when the city of Los Angeles was majority Black Americans. Santa Ana, same thing. Let's see, there were some other cities down in Orange County. Now, Orange County itself was predominantly Caucasian in parts like Anaheim, Garden Grove. But when it came to Santa Ana, it was predominantly Black Americans. And then when Hispanics were allowed, and I do say allowed because they did allow that illegal immigration, they took over Santa Ana. Now it is like, I think it's like 99, 98 or 99% Hispanic. Nobody else lives there. I don't even think the Asians live there. Right? It is straight Hispanic. Straight up. Everything. Okay? And that includes their local government as well. Mayors, councilmen, everything. So I need people to understand that, I know Mark Carter talks about it a lot. It's like it's a takeover spirit, but it's what they are allowed to do. Even in Los Angeles, when I think there was the lady that got caught on the hot mic saying they're with the blacks. Like, wow, okay. That's that's what you're saying, and that's how you're feeling about it. Okay, gotcha. So you're okay, you know, taking up the resources, giving up the resources to other people. But we definitely know that you are not about all people. You're about your people, right? And I don't fault people for wanting to be about taking care of their own. I don't fault people at all for that. That you mean obviously you should be able to take care of your own house, and you should want to take care of your own house. The problem comes when people go, yeah, I'm gonna take care of my house at your expense. That's my problem. Okay. I don't mind you taking care of your people. I don't mind you doing stuff for your people, but don't do it at my expense. Don't do it to my detriment, right? Don't do it and steal my resources. And I do say stolen, right? Because there were resources that were specifically for Black Americans that were stolen from Black Americans and used for other groups because they called them minorities. That's theft. And you might not think about it that way, but it is, right? And you'd be like, well, how did we get here from, talking about this Palestinian student? Because that's the slippery slope, right? It's that part when people are allowed again to come over here and then they think they can have the same rights of a US citizen under the Constitution when they're not, and other people allow them to exercise it. That's how I got there. Because they are allowed to exercise it at the expense of everyone else. We need to start demanding more from our congressmen and women that they do right by us, or they're not getting back in office. I'm telling you, 2026 should be an upheaval. Everybody, no incumbent at this juncture should be returning to office anywhere, all over the United States. I don't care who they're replaced by. I mean, obviously, I would like them replaced by people running for the Redemption Party to make a stand and a statement. But they all need to not be put back in office. And I'm talking about the House. No one in the House of Representatives, and I mean no one, should be returned to their seat. All incumbents got to go. You got to go. You're not doing your job for the American people. Because Ilhan Omar said it best. Well, we hold the purse, and it's our decision. That's not your money, ma'am. Not your decision. And none of you should be back in office because, see, we need better representation because what happened with this person should have never happened. He should have been removed from the soil, period. And every person in Congress should have demanded it. And he shouldn't have gone to court, taking up our tax dollars, by the way. I'm just saying. And you want us as the American citizens to sit back and go, okay, well, I guess no, he has no rights. Wherever he came from, he needs to go back there. Period. And never allowed to be returned to the United States ever. Did he graduate? Great. Go home. Build up your people. But you don't come back here. You don't get to come back here. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. And like I said, when we come back, we're going to look at some government contracts, because I definitely, want you guys to see that and just see a little bit of behind the scenes to see if it'd be something you'd be interested in. So we will see you on the other side.
We've unified our end-to-end encrypted services to make them easier to use together, because privacy should be the default for everyone. With the new Proton ecosystem, you can add events to Proton Calendar automatically when you accept an invitation. Easily share large files with a secure Proton Drive link. Send secure Proton Drive links privately with Proton Mail.
And welcome back to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host of Unfiltered Vision News. If you guys are wondering why I'm not on camera today and I'm off camera and you just hear my voice, is because my camera kept kind of flaking in and out, and I didn't want it to be distracting. So I was like, you know what? We would just do an audio podcast today. So just imagine this like visual radio, right? For those of you that are watching me live on X, Facebook, and YouTube. So I was talking a little bit about government contracting last week, and I couldn't log into one of my platforms that I'm a part of. Now, here's the thing. You can apply for government contracts, right? And you can do this in a free way. But what you first have to do is you have to go to sam.gov, right? And you have to get your unique UEI number, right? So that you can actually apply for contracts. And this is how you would get paid once you applied and won the actual contract. So I just wanted to look at a few of these. Now, Unison Marketplace, these contracts, let's see what's been posted in the past 3 days. A lot of these contracts, they're looking for different types of things. So this one is a virtual single license renewal, and it's open market, Department of State. This one is a crane and fall arrest bridge for Tucson sector. So a lot of these names might look strange. They might look weird. Like, what is that? What does that even mean? But some of them are very straightforward, right? Like rubber flooring. So Oh, let's see what Unca's saying. Unca says, and there should be a time limit on how long people remain in our government seats. Absolutely. Federal and local governments, no longer than a decade. I agree. Because some of these people, they're called career politicians, and those are two words that should never go together. Career and politician. Not ever. And it's sad because some people, they get in those seats and then they get compromised because they're willing to do anything to stay in the seat. Right? But again, let's get back to here. So like you guys can see, so there's rubber flooring, right? Um, housing carpet replacement, okay? Catered meals. So these contracts are not so much in, I would say, the area of defense, right? These may be more localized. Now, this is for Department of Homeland Security, because you got DHS, right? And that's to replace HVAC units for the building. So let's say you know somebody that has an HVAC service, right? And it's like, oh, or they know how to replace and do all these things. You could actually apply for this under your account, right? And if you were to win the contract, you could subcontract, right, the work to those individuals and pay them to do the work. And you're not even doing the work at all. There's definitely different ways of working this. So when you see certain things like the rubber flooring, you may not know how to put in the rubber flooring, but you might know somebody else who's skilled in it, right? And you can help get that done. Now, this is in Bolivia. I wouldn't, personally, I don't want to deal with anything out of the country, but you could. I'm just saying the opportunities are there. So even with the DOJ, right? There's a FCI Tallahassee replace the FS warehouse freezer and cooler electrical, right? So they need somebody to do this. Again, if you don't have the skill set to do it, but you know somebody who does, you can utilize their services and you would subcontract the work to them to get it done. And you guys, would agree upon a term of however much it's going to cost. And then you can get a little bit of money yourself on the back end for mediating that relationship and getting this done. So this is kind of how a lot of people are able to make money with the government. Because I know a lot of people are always wondering, like, how do people make money with the government? And they don't have this skill set because they don't need it. They can be the middleman and have the account and hire somebody to do it. Now, personally, for me, honestly, I don't have time. I am the founder of a political party and I'm doing this show. As you can see, just doing this show, that's a lot, right? So between doing the show, doing the political party, and a few other things that I volunteer for in my community, it's like, no, I really don't have the time to do it. But I do keep my account just in case at some juncture in my life I do have the time to do it. And I'm able to have that as a viable stream of income outside of the streams of income that I have now. So, this is something that I definitely recommend everybody look into. And it's called Unison, Unison Marketplace. Their website is marketplace.unisonglobal.com. That's marketplace.unisonglobal.com. And I encourage everybody to take the time to check it out. Yes, check it out. And, see what you can find within your wheelhouse or within your skill set. Now, there are people out there that have seminars on joining sam.gov and different seminars on how to, go about getting these contracts. I don't recommend them all. I don't recommend any of them, only because a lot of what you need to know is on sam.gov, and they actually have videos there that you can watch. They actually have people that you can talk to within sam.gov if you have any questions. And it's actually free to sign up to sam.gov. Now, what's not free is setting up your business, because you do have to, pay to get your articles of incorporation done in your state. So those things, are going to cost you money. But again, do it yourself. Do not pay somebody thousands of dollars to do it for you, because you'll be out of thousands of dollars and you won't be making any money. So take the time, read, do it yourself, look it up. It is definitely worth it, right? But anything worth having is worth putting in the hard work. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back on the other side, we're going to get into some more of this news. And with that, I definitely want to share with you Wealth in Motion. We're going to watch a little bit about, maybe starting a nonprofit or not starting a nonprofit, and capital gains. So let's check this out, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. I am your host, Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and we are doing a special segment called Wealth Management, because as much as we need to stay physically well and mentally well, right, we also need to stay spiritually well, but there's also wellness within money management. And I have a wonderful guest that I wanted to bring to you guys today. Her name is Sonia Smith, and she is the owner of Wealth in Motion. So let me bring her to the stage. Hey, Sonia, how are you?
Hello, great. Thank you so much for inviting Wealth in Motion Consulting today. On it, I was a director at a specialty pharmacy where I was in charge of $1.3 billion worth of contracts. So okay. I've dealt with money a little bit. So I give you a broader view to show how they can interchange and how you can use it and maximize all of your wealth. Things before I recommend them, because if I haven't tried it myself, I'm not going to recommend it to you. Even with wealth management, if I don't have my money in it, I'm not going to tell you to put your money in it. I have plenty of people that are wealth managers that tell you what to do, but I would ask you to ask the question, ask them, do you have this product? Are you using this product? Can you show me how you benefited from that product?
Right. And that's really important. And, in this day and age, we've heard a lot about Doge, and the not-for-profit space. So is that a way to make money, if you don't want to start a small business, but maybe start a nonprofit?
So there's two schools of thought. Like to make money, you got to have some money. So it's difficult to start something, especially a nonprofit, with no money. Now, if you have initial investors that are willing to donate a core base of investors, that's good. But for nonprofits, you got to have money to get started, right? And the thing is, there's grant money out there, and people are like, oh, I'm going to start a nonprofit and get a grant. Well, you're not going to get a grant unless you show that nonprofit is really profitable or making a difference in the community. Right. So you have to get started and have documentation of a board, documentation that you have meeting minutes, documentation that you're bringing something in. Because anybody who's a good steward of their money, they're going to ask the question, why should I invest in you?
Right.
Whether it's nonprofit or for-profit, if you're not invested in it yourself.
Okay. And now with starting a business, I don't want to say there's downsides, but there are things that come up. Mm-hmm. So, how could people avoid capital gains taxes on investment properties specifically? Because I know you talked about real estate in here being a good way to, invest your money and to make money. But what about those capital gains?
One way, if you take and you buy property using your 401ks or your IRAs, there is no capital gains tax when you sell it.
Okay.
Because it's an investment vehicle for retirement. So it's exempted from capital gains taxes. If it's after tax money, you're exempted from having to pay taxes on the gains when you sell the property completely on that amount of money. It's almost like investing in stock using your IRAs or 401ks. So if you use your IRA to invest in stock, if it's after tax, then you don't have to pay taxes on the gains, right? Oh. If you use your after tax IRA to buy real estate, you don't have to pay taxes on the gains. And a lot of people don't know that. So my vehicle, like when I was younger in my 20s, I used to buy property and so on and so forth. And but when I learned about self-directed IRAs, which are called SIDRAs, SIDRA, I started buying property within my retirement funds and IRAs. And like when I started off, I didn't have much. I think my first property condo cost me $138,000. And then I rented it out for, I think about 6 years. And then after that, I sold it for 200 and something for a $90,000 profit. Right.
Nice.
So, but because it's in my IRA, it's in my pre-tax IRA, I didn't have to pay capital gains tax.
Yeah. And see, we don't know. Okay. We don't know about those things. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's why I was like, when you agreed to talk about this, I was like, thank you. Because we don't think about, it's one of those things. A lot of people talk about OPM, right? But there are ways to use your own money if you've properly invested. Now, I also wanted to ask you about, recession proof. Is buying a property really recession proof? And how does that work? Because right now we are in a recession.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you go back historically and look at every market, there's historically is up and down. Well, real estate is up and down. With stocks is up and down. Mm-hmm. So when things are down, that's when you buy up the things that that's going to go up. Like right now, Tesla is going down. But with everything that's projected with Tesla's going to have the robots. They're going to make money off of the software for self-driving software. They're already sold it to China. They're already sold it to Saudi Arabia. So pretty soon, every car is going to have that software in it. Right now, Tesla is down, but we know Tesla's going to be up. In the next 2 years, Tesla's going to probably explode, right?
Yeah.
So like companies start being on the lookout for companies that that are going to do well, right? And so also when you talk about recession proof, I've done research and I look at different areas that are kind of more recession proof, like the state of Texas. The state of Texas does not allow consumers to take out all these loans and pull out equity out of their homes and stuff. So when 2009 and those other times when recessions happened because of foreclosures, Texas really wasn't affected like a lot of the country, the values of the houses, because of the fact that it wasn't affected because people weren't allowed to pull out over a certain amount of money out of their homes. So Texas is a state that I like to personally invest in because I know that because of the laws and strict regulations, my properties will hold their value. And just remember, eventually they'll all go up, right? The key thing is I used to, when I was younger, before I knew better, I used to have loans on my properties, loans on my rental property. When I switched to using my retirement money and building it up, buying and selling within my retirement. So now I'm paying cash for these properties. So whether the values go down or up, it doesn't matter to me because I don't have a mortgage to pay. Gotcha. So it doesn't matter to me what the market value of the property is, as long as I have tenants renting it out, or if it's a medium or short-term rental, as long as I have people coming in and that rent coming in, it doesn't matter what the value is. So that's recession proof, is owning it cash out. That's your recession proof.
Very, very cool.
You can go to www.wealthinmotion.net and set up a free 30-minute consultation, and we could talk about your financial situation and look at
Let her know that yes, you watched Unfiltered Vision News here, and the code is UV10 off. That's UV10 off. The code is right there across the screen for you guys, so that when you do get your free consultation, you can see different ways of investing your money. Okay, guys, and that will do it for our wealth management segment. We're going to do more, and we're going to bring you more ideas of how to save in this down economy that they talk about, but there always is, that ram in the bush, as they like to say. So thank you so much for joining us for this segment, and we will see you right after this break. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening in to that segment. And I hope you guys were able to get a lot out of it. I'm definitely trying to give you content that you can use, right, on a daily basis, and also bring you the news unfiltered, right, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. But with that, making sure that you guys are not propagandized, that I really and doing my best to make sure that you're getting an honest view of the news, because there's just so much out there. And I would never want to steer you guys wrong. I just want to get you the information, right? Sometimes doing that can be boring, but hey, sorry. The news is not boring right now. It's pretty exciting. And I actually came across this article. Now, I know in our last previous segment, we talked about how there's some Americans in the Maryland and Virginia area that suffered a data breach, and then I came across this article that said 16 billion logins were stolen, and largest data breach ever. Now this happened. This story was June 20th, so this is about 3 days ago. And so it said 16 billion passwords from various platforms, including Apple, Facebook, Google, and government services have been leaked in what is being called the largest data breach ever. I'm going to stop there before I read on. So if you're on any of these platforms, and I think most of us are, right? Google, Facebook, Apple, if any of you guys work for the government, make sure you update your passwords. I would just say that. Just update your passwords to be on the safe side, because that's, part of your login. So the exposed data reportedly includes credentials for more than 30 data sets, each containing tens of millions to over 3.5 billion records of logins to social media, VPNs, and user accounts for several big tech companies. The breach, discovered by researchers at Cyber News, is considered the work of multiple unknown info stealers. They described the incident as a blueprint for mass exploitation, warning that the data involved is not recycled from past breaches, but consists of newly stolen information. Okay, again, the people that we pay to protect our information, look, y'all should be out of business. You're horrible at your job. Or is it inside? Right? Because we keep hearing about these data breaches, and I'm like, and I know it's sad, but I know a lot of you guys out there are probably exhausted hearing it, right? You're at the point where you're like, yeah, another data breach, whatever. They'll send me this, they'll pay for that. And it's like, okay, you keep doing this. What is it that you want with our information, right? I guess that's what I'm looking at. Like, okay, data breaches have been done, in the past few years. There's data breaches done, several months out of the year, over years and years of time. And I'm like, what is it that you want? What is the data that you're truly compiling and looking for? Are you trying to just create profiles on each of us, right? I'm like, okay, because everybody's got, some type of social media out there. Even if you think you don't, you do. If you have a login and password to your bank account, they consider that almost a part of social media because you're participating in a social space on media. You might engage with the chat bot, right? That's on that platform and asking it questions. So, what is the end game? In my opinion, with them dealing with these data breaches? I guess that's to me is the bigger question. So for context, there have been several significant data breaches prior to this incident. So there's even more, right? Including one that exposed 184 million passwords. Okay. Yeah. The recent data breach is unique due to its massive scale and the variety of platforms affected. So, cyber news researchers have urged users to invest in password management solutions, not to share passwords, and to stay alert for potential compromise. Both Google and the FBI have also warned users to be cautious of suspicious links in SMS messages. So how the media covered it. The Independent, which is left, they lean left bias, highlighted the warnings from Google and the FBI, including that because the data sets were exposed very briefly, it wasn't enough time to identify who was controlling the data. The New York Post, that leans right, included the role of user negligence in the breach, citing the CEO of Keeper Security, who emphasized the ease with which sensitive data can be unintentionally exposed online. Newsweek, that center, provided more insight into password creation and ways to boost password security. Each outlet included a warning that the stolen information allowed access to pretty much any online service imaginable. As I was reading all of that, something came to mind. I really think they're going to continue with these data breaches and they're going to even get worse, right? What is the one thing they keep encouraging people to do? They keep encouraging people to get bio use bio passwords and scanners. I don't know if anybody out there has had that come up, but I have, a couple of accounts and it'll give me a pop up that says, "Oh, do you want to use your thumbprint? Do you want to use facial recognition? Do you want to use your handprint?" And I'm like, "Why are you trying to get my biometrics to log in?" And I honestly think the people that are the biometrics people, they're behind these breaches. This is where it's going. And this might be a tinfoil hat moment, and that's fine. But I really honestly believe that's where this is going. The breaches are going to get worse. They're going to get more egregious. And they're going to get to a point where that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And I truly, truly believe that, you guys, that is what they are trying to do. They are really, really trying to kind of corral us into the biometric way of communicating our security, right? Using our thumbprint to log into our phones, or using some type of, I don't know if retina scan would be, beyond the pale, but definitely some type of facial recognition to log into your phone or maybe even your computer, because they do have cameras on them. So it could definitely allow for the technology. And I know the technology is being used, but I know a lot of people don't want to use it. But see, we are all unique. with our thumbprints and, our face and different things. But let me know what you guys think, because I honestly think that's where this is going. The breaches aren't going to stop. They're only going to get worse. They're only going to get worse. They're going to start messing with people's money. They're just going to start messing with people more and more and more. And then say, oh, we have this great solution. You could just use your biometrics. Nope, don't do it. It's slavery, y'all. It's slavery. Don't do it. Stand your ground. Change your passwords. Do what you got to do. But do not capitulate to these crazy people, because all they want to do is create more slaves. That's their get down. That's what they want to do. That's what they like. That's what they're into. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news on it, but yeah, that's kind of who they are. Kind of what they want to do. Like I said, kind of what they're into. It's what they like. And so, as you guys know, I do like using all sides. I can upgrade to sustaining membership to go ad free. I might try it. The one thing I do like about all sides, as in comparison to the other news aggregates out there, I think there's one called Ground News, and they're pretty decent as well. But what I like about all sides is it's by investment. So it's more crowdsourced, right? So like I said, I like it. I like that it's showing the news from different perspectives, and you get to actually see it done. I'm like, oh no, why is my all sides not working? There we go. It's like, no, don't do that to me. My Monday has been a trip, y'all. My camera wasn't working. That's why you guys don't see me right now, because my camera has been acting really, really crazy. And I was like, okay, I want you guys to have a good experience. Okay. All right. So I was doing well. All right. We read over that. Necessary options on the table. Let's see. Immigration officers turned away from Dodger Stadium parking lot. ICE denies presence. Interesting. So immigration officers were turned away, but ICE denies presence. So team officials from the Los Angeles Dodgers reportedly prevented immigration officials from entering the parking lots of the Dodger Stadium on Thursday morning, igniting protests regarding potential immigration enforcement at the ballpark. So, according to team officials, immigration and customs enforcement agents in unmarked vehicles were denied entry. These agents, upon being questioned by a Los Angeles Times reporter, identified themselves as members of Department of Homeland Security, but declined to comment further. Some of these vehicles were allegedly involved in an immigration raid at a Home Depot earlier that day. A crowd of several dozen protesters gathered at the stadium and dispersed in the afternoon. Interesting how they knew where these agents were going to be. How the protesters just randomly show up when they're there. Is there a mole in DHS? Are y'all broadcasting this stuff? Because I don't think you would broadcast going to Dodger Stadium. I think you would just show up, right? So we need to find the moles in DHS and ICE. And they're hiring, by the way. So if anybody wants to get in there and just kind of, shake things up, find these knuckleheads that are in there giving these protesters, quote unquote, and they're not protesters, they're, to me, there are individuals that are causing civil unrest. I haven't found a name for them yet, because I don't want to call them disruptors or anything like that, because, when you disrupt something, it's like, yeah, we're here to shake things up. But I'm like, no, you don't. You hate our country. I could call you traitors to the United States. How about that? They say these traitors of the United States, because they are trying to impede federal investigations and arrests, right? So the government response, ICE denied it was at the stadium. DHS noted Customs and Border Protection was briefly in the parking lot for unrelated reasons. So Customs and Border is completely different. They are not ICE, even though they fall under DHS. So with Customs and Border, not to laugh, but they might have been there to get people that were, possibly, selling fraudulent stuff. And, I mean, there's stuff that they deal with on that level, and they work with the DEA when it comes to drugs and certain things. So they might have been looking for somebody in particular, maybe. But Customs and Border Protection, totally different from ICE. So the Times Magazine emphasized the appearance of the agents in the unmarked SUV, saying 5 agents, several covering their faces with gaiters and armed with pistols, stood between the vehicles. They did not wear identifying items or badges. So Fox News on the right highlighted ICE's denial of the events. It also noted more hostile rhetoric from protesters occurring online, while the Times focused on the signs at the protest. Again, how were you there? How did you even know they were going to be there? And this is Customs and Border Protection. How are there even protesters there? Like, doesn't even make sense. So Unc said these companies need to be fined millions for interfering with federal business. They do. They do. They're not, but they do. I think some ideas of people that are impeding ICE or any other federal agents, if it's a human, right, not a business, it's human. In my opinion, they should get 20 years federal prison, no parole. That's it. You're locked up for 20 years, and you can't even apply for parole. You know how people apply for parole after you? Nope, 20 years, no parole, federal prison, done. You're done. Like, you will not see the light of day anymore, impeding a federal investigation. Now, for companies, I don't know if they should be fined as well, but they should lose their license to do business. They should just lose it. If you are going to interfere with federal business, you just lose your business license and not be allowed to go into business anywhere from 5 to 10 years, depending on the severity of what you're doing. Period. Because it is a treasonous act. You are interfering with the federal government. Do we know if you're a spy or not? I mean, how do we know? Right? It's very, very scary. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into, obviously, some more news, because there are other things going on in the world. But I just want to thank you guys again for joining me here at Unfiltered Vision News, and we will see you on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, lean left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I'll be your host. And you're like, well, we're just going to 9 a.m. It's 9 a.m. now. Like, what are we doing? Well, we're going to go over a few minutes only because I started a little bit late this morning. I was having a little bit of technical difficulty. And so I was like, I want to at least do close to my 2 hours as possible. So we're going to go for about roughly 10 more minutes. And I just wanted to, get into some more news. Something that I noticed, because like I said, I've been out of town, been on vacation, and I noticed this post from John Ferguson. It says, "Warning, Texas, this is Islam in Plano, Texas. We must support," and this is what the person in Plano, Texas is saying. It says, "We must support Iran in this one thing to eliminate the enemy." Well, who's the enemy? "We have blatant kufr, Kufr, those who reject Islam," right? "Texan must be," and so those are the two lines that this gentleman is saying, the gentleman in the blue, that, we have blatant kufr. Interesting. So you're on American soil. Now, this is happening in Texas on American soil, right? Really? And see, this is part of the problem. This is what Brock and I were going back and forth about. It's like, really, what is going on? It says Texans, I'm sure he meant to say Texans plural, must be vigilant, watchful, and prepared at all times. Texas invited the jihadists in. So let's see if you guys can hear this. So my question is, who's the common enemy? Sir, who's the common enemy? You are on American soil saying these things? See, this is, and my husband and I, we had a discussion about this. It's like, this is a conflict right here. Because, see, he couldn't say these things if he was in Iran. Let's just be clear about that. But he can say these things here in the United States because, see, we have freedom of speech. Now, I'm pretty sure he's either a U.S. citizen, right? Naturalized. Okay. More than likely. But who is your allegiance to? This is a country founded on Christian values. Okay. He said, no, we didn't hear it. I'm sorry. So sorry. It was good too, right? But basically, this person was saying, that, we must support Iran in this one thing to eliminate the enemy, right? But my question is, who is the enemy that this person is referring to? And says we have blatant kufr, those who reject Islam. Well, here in the United States, we do have freedom of religion. So people are free to worship however they choose to worship, right? They do. I mean, people are even Satan worshipers. There are people here that worship Satan. There are people that are atheists, right? So we have a little bit on both sides. But at the end of the day, this individual is saying, you know, as an Islamist, they must support Iran in this one thing to eliminate the enemy. Like I said, my concern is in that rhetoric of eliminate the enemy, because see, kufr is anyone who rejects Islam. I don't reject Islam, but I'm not going to participate in it either. Does that make sense? Like, I don't, I'm not worshiping that way. Okay. Now, if you take me saying I'm not worshiping that way as a rejection of Islam, okay. Again, you're still on American soil and this is still a Christian nation. Like, why are you even here? Like, you look dumb to me. You look like an idiot because you're sitting with people that you consider the enemy on their soil. Am I wrong? I just want somebody to tell me I'm wrong, because you shouldn't even be here. If I'm just saying, if you feel that strongly about this, that anybody who rejects Islam is about this, because God's not about Islam. He's not. Now, your little g might be about Islam, but big G is not. It's not. There's nothing in the Bible that talks about Islam at all, except maybe it being rejected. So what are we doing here? Again, we have freedom of religion in the United States. We do. People practice all different types of religion here. And they are not told that they can't. They can worship as they choose to. But like, again, what I found interesting is the fact that you are in a Christian nation, and it is. I mean, it was founded under the guise of Christianity. Whether people want to hear that or not, whether people like that or not, it is. That's what it was founded under. The 10 Commandments, that's what they used as their guide to govern most of the laws that we have within the Constitution and even the amendments to our Constitution. Okay, so if that's where we are, I'm just saying, if that's where we are, then this person that's in Plano, Texas, he needs to leave. You need to leave the United States. You are in conflict, sir. You're in conflict with the majority of people here that, atheists, they don't agree, with Christianity. They don't believe in anything, But at the same time, the Constitution that they live under, yeah, the governing principles came from the 10 Commandments. The governing principles, again. But if that's something that you don't want to be a part or be, what I mean? To me, it's the conflict, right? That's where it's upsetting, because I know that there are a lot of people that practice Islam that are not on what this person is on. Not at all. Not at all. Okay. But I'm saying, for this particular individual, don't incite violence here on this soil. I would much rather you go to Iran, because that's who you want to support right now. It says, we must support Iran in this one thing to eliminate the enemy. I'm not sure. Again, who's the enemy? And if the, it's just like looking at that part like, no, the individuals like this, am definitely okay with their citizenship being revoked and them sent back to the country that they support, right? I am okay with that. And with that, we're going to end today's stream. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. I pray that you guys have an amazing Monday, that you had a wonderful weekend. For those that celebrated Juneteenth, happy Juneteenth. I hope everybody had a good time. And Unc says, America better take care of this before they gain the numbers. Absolutely. And here's the thing, they do have some numbers. That's the scary part. And they're being allowed to do it. There is, I think a couple of weeks ago, I covered what they call Epic City, that is actually in Texas, where they want to live under Sharia law, which is in opposition to our Constitution. I know that the governor there has tried at several points to stop it, but he's getting opposition from people that are in office there in Texas that want to move forward with this. It's like it's stuff like this that we can't allow, in my opinion. These are things that are like, okay, federal government, you need to get involved with Texas. Texas has a problem. Okay. Texas got a problem. We've got some people here that do not agree with freedom, and they need to go. They just need to go. And Ung says, this is why I have a big problem with America letting our enemies on our soil. That's crazy. Look at the video I posted. Okay, so I'm gonna have to check out this video that Ung posted. Okay, let me see. Let me go to my notifications. I have notifications, y'all. Now y'all get to see in my feed. Oh, wow. Now you guys won't be able to hear this even if I did play it, but this is happening in Texas, you guys. This is not Iraq. This is not somewhere in the Middle East. This is on our soil. This is a disgrace, because this should never be. And see, like I said, the conversation that my husband and I were having, it's like, okay, well, where does free speech stop? Right here. This is where free speech stops, because that's not an American flag. That's a flag from a completely different country. And no, you're not going to come over here and fly a flag from another country. Like, this needs to be shut down, period. We don't need this over here. We don't want this over here. And everybody there, and then burkas, all y'all need to be, look, y'all can go home. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. If that's how you want to live your life, that's great. You're just not going to do it here. You're just not going to do it on this soil. And that is the problem, right? That is the problem. Yeah. Someone in Texas government seats of power making these decisions about Americans. You're not wrong. You're totally right. Yeah, there is somebody in Texas making these decisions. And some of them want to cry foul, like, oh my gosh, I don't believe we don't understand how this happened. It happened because you allowed it. And again, it goes all the way back to what I was saying earlier when we first started this stream. It's what's been allowed. Whatever you allow, that's a slippery slope that goes back to that that student here, this right here. It's what you allow. And this person being released sends a bad message. It sets a horrible precedent, because now other people like him are going to follow suit and create complete chaos on our soil. And those are the things that we need to stand up against. So with that, I will see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully my technology will be working a lot better. But as always, thank you so much for joining me here, because I know you could be anywhere, getting your news. I'm so grateful that you choose to get your news here with Unfiltered Vision News. So I will see you guys tomorrow, and have a great day.